3, 2, 1, go. All right, what's up guys? Welcome to this super beginner brush up in Nomad Sculpt. I guess it's not a brush up if you never really used it, but we're just gonna do something really super simple. So this right here is the gizmo. That's this tool right here. And I'll just click off of it so you can sort of see it. Little green, red, and blue. So that's the gizmo. And you'll notice that your sphere is probably, let's see if I can find it. It probably looks like this. And this is just a normal color of the mesh. This is a mesh. This is a 3D sphere. And this is just the normal color of it. But a lot of times when I'm sculpting, I like to use what's called a matte cap. And essentially, I mean, it's a weird word. All it is, it's like a set color. So there's no information, there's no like lighting information. It's all sort of like built in. So just go here, this little sun icon, go matte cap. And here's the matte cap, and you can tap it, and there's a bunch of different colors, you know, some that are like kind of fun, but wouldn't really help for sculpting. So I just do this really simple PXG clay. It's just a normal matte cap. And this just doesn't matter with the lighting and stuff. This is essentially just for sculpting. And I kind of like it because it just kind of looks like clay too. So sometimes I might just call it clay. So the first thing that we'll do is get rid of this sphere because it's really big. It's 98.3K. And if you're just starting, this stuff can be kind of confusing, high poly, low poly. But you want to essentially try to minimize your projects. And as you do more of them, you'll get much better at that. It's a little bit difficult in the beginning because you just kind of want to make cool stuff. And it's hard to make really cool stuff when you're constantly trying to get the poly count low. So I'm not even going to go into that too much. So we're not going to worry about that. But one thing that we can do with this sphere is go here. And then you have add, delete, clone, etc. So we're just going to delete it and add a new one. Sphere. And now we have practically the same thing. This one's only like 6,000 instead of the other really big one. So we're going to start with this sphere here, and let's just take this this green on this is our gizmo again. So this green one just like kind of squashes it and pulls it. Kind of like that. And if you want to get back to the front, you just use this little, you can tap on that. You know, it has all the other sides, top. So this is how you know what the front is. Okay, so let's take this green one and let's stretch it down a little bit like this. And just so you know, there's an orange ring that makes it bigger and smaller. So you have that. And then you have these red, blue, and green rings, and those just rotate it. Obviously down here you have back and forth, and obviously tapping with 2 fingers undoes. I think tapping with 3 fingers redoes. And also these little arrows, they move it around. And that's pretty much it, pretty simple. These other things sort of move it in another weird way, but I never really use those. So yeah, the rings are just rotation, the arrows go in that direction, and the little spheres, they just kind of stretch it. So let's go to the front. We have it nice and stretched. And there's validate, there's mirror and validate. So mirror, if you tap mirror, it just uses the mirror of the whole project. So the absolute center. So let's say if I was to go like this, it mirrors, now there's 2 of them. So imagine the mirror is right in the middle. So yeah, that's mirror. We don't need mirror right now though, so I'm gonna undo it. This is our tools. There's only a few tools here. You can't really see everything because you have to validate. Once you validate, you can use all the tools. It's really important because sometimes you might add something, you're like, well, where's my tools at? You have to validate. That means it's an official part of your project. It's validated, it's real, and it goes from yellow to like white. So let's go back into our scene. We're mostly going to use the scene menu. Here's our sphere. 3 dots, and let's just rename it to body. We'll just call it body. So now we're in our gizmo again. There's clone here. Clone's very useful because it clones. So now you can use this arrow and you can bring it up. Let's go to the front. And maybe we'll make this a little bit smaller. Maybe we'll keep it the same size. I don't know. Maybe we'll make it bigger. Like this. So yeah, you can just kind of stretch it and make something similar, sort of similar to that. I'll take this one and squish it a little bit. So you can kind of experiment. So let's pretend like this is the head, this is the body. So right now they're both called body. So let's go back into our scene and let's name this one head. So obviously your scene is just where all your meshes go, wherever you add, where you know, you can add all these kind of shapes. And you just have to, and it's really good to think about what you want to create, or just doodle, you know, just use different shapes and be like, okay, I want to make shoulders. So I'll use a sphere for the shoulder and a cylinder for the arm, you know, or I'll, you know, things like that. That's just kind of how a good way to think about 3D modeling. You just think of the base shape of everything, because everything's a base shape. You know, our hand is like a box, and then like maybe cylinders, you know, or maybe spheres. So there's different ways to get to things. So you can look at anything on your desk, your iPad, your Apple Pencil. It's all made of base shapes that are just kind of fine-tuned as you go. All right, so let's add some ears. So which shape do we want to use? We'll go with sphere again. We'll keep it really simple. So we'll go with sphere. I moved it up with the gizmo, and I'm gonna hit mirror now because he has 2 ears, or she. So now I turn it to the side. I'm gonna use this little blue circle to sort of make it like that. Let's bring it down into the head. Now we'll use this green to like sort of tilt it back a little bit. And let's put on the back of the head. So maybe something like that. Maybe we'll tilt it a little bit more. And yours doesn't have to be the same as mine, but maybe you're thinking this is a little too Mickey-ish. So we can validate it. So now it's official. Let's go here and let's rename it. See, it's in this mirror now. Anytime you use mirror, the mirror shows up in red and our shape is inside of it. So here's our mirror. Our shape is inside of it. Don't get confused by where this goes. I'm on the mirror, but it's down here. Don't let that confuse you. Just go to the sphere and that's what it is. And since it's a mirror, anything you do with this one happens to the other side. So it's mirrored. And we'll make this a one piece. So it's not a mirror. It's just one like finalized piece. We'll do that in a second. But for now, let's take the move tool. And I'll make it a little bit bigger here. This is the radius. That's like the size of the tool. This is the intensity of the tool. So I want to make these a little bit more like, give them a little bit more of a point. So I'm just going to pull up from the top. And maybe just, you know, kind of pull from the bottom a little bit too. And you can kind of, you can kind of make a shape however you want. Maybe we'll do sort of like this. Maybe a little rounded over here. You can do a shape like that. I guess that looks like a mouse, sort of. But anyway, I think it looks pretty good. And now you can do some more editing to these. Let's take the layer tool, which is kind of cool. So we'll use the layer tool and let's turn the intensity up a little bit. Maybe 25. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, and hit sub. Hit sub. That subtracts. Because otherwise it'll add on top, but we want to subtract it. Okay, so we hit sub, and now we can sort of make an impression on the ear, in the ear. And you see how it's like it doesn't really look that clean? That's because our sphere is only 6,000, so it's not very dense. It's very soft and malleable. Let's use layer again and make it a little deeper. Like that. So that looks pretty good. And there's a thing called voxel merging or voxel remeshing. And what that does is like you can add density to any of these meshes. And when you add density, you can have clearer details. So it's not so soft, it's not so malleable. So you're able to add, you know, lots more details. So in order to do that, you just go up here. So right next to scene, there's this little thing, and then there's a voxel. Just tap voxel, and you say voxel remeshing. And this number is the only thing you have to think about. And you can just stick to like 200. 200's like a good median. You stick to 200, it's not too soft, not too hard. That's like a good place to start, 200. So we'll just hit remesh. And notice how this kind of changes a little bit. So now it's a little more solid, but we need to smooth it out. So we'll go to smooth. You can see my settings here. I don't really have it all the way up to the top, but you can kind of experiment. So now I'm just going to smooth this out. Just make it nice and smooth and clean. Now remember, if I didn't remesh this, I would have been able to like smooth it a lot easier when it was softer. And if you need to, you can just voxel remesh back down. You can go down to like 100 and it will be easier to smooth. If you go up to 500, it'll be harder to smooth. So that's voxel remeshing. And you can actually voxel merge. So if you were to voxel merge the ears with the head, then I'd just be able to smooth all this out together. And who knows, maybe I'll do that. You never know. Let's do it. I talked about it. Let's do it. So first we have this mirror, we have this ear. So right now the sphere is selected, and when I select this last, this pops up. Validate, join children. So right now it's 2 pieces. Join children, it will be 1 piece. Yes. And now you just have the mirror. Now it's just 1 piece. So now let's just call it ears. Body, head, ears, simple. Did I voxel remesh it together? I honestly don't remember if I did or not. No, I didn't. So here we have the ears and the head. And let's just say we want to voxel remesh them together. So you just highlight them both. You go up here, voxel remeshing, 200 like we just did, remesh. So now they're all 1 piece. See, now head is just 1 piece. So that's the difference. See, now they're like soldered together. I'll hit smooth, and I want symmetry on because now it's just 1 piece. So I want, see these 2 blue dots? So I can smooth here and it smooths equally on the other side. So you want symmetry on. So this is the good thing about voxel remeshing. Now it's just 1 piece. If you were to just join, like if you were to take this and this and just join them, they're together, but they're not really together. You know? And if you wanted to separate them, then you could just go here, here, and separate, and then it would separate the 2. So that's the difference. But I'm going to go back because we don't need to do all that. There we go. Just going to smooth this out a little bit. Smooth out the head. Smooth it out a little bit back here. Looks nice. So it looks good. All right, so let's do some simple eyes. So you know what? Let's use the mask tool to do this. So here's the mask tool. Since we already did the layers, sometimes I do kind of eye sockets by using layers. But since we already did that, let's try something else. So we'll do mask. The head's 104, so that's pretty dense. You know, so when you do the mask, mirror, you can go like this. And this is good for like figuring out, okay, I want to make like eye sockets, but I want them to be a very particular shape. Maybe something like this. Or they can even be like a little bit more round. Something like that. So that's pretty good. I like that. So now if we want to make an indentation, like if we want to, I'll just show you. So here's the mask options up here. So let's say we invert. So now we just inverted what we did. And now you can take the gizmo and now you can just move that right on in, like so. And then it's perfect. And if you wanted to actually see how it's like, it moved in, but this is still sort of like, you know, it's still sort of round. So there's a couple things you can do. You can take like move, and if symmetry's on, it'll do it to both. You can kind of like move it in manually, or you can take, let's say, clay, and you can hit sub. So instead of adding clay, it'll take away clay. Oh, I gotta make sure I have some radius there. So you can basically just like, as long as you have sub, you can kind of do this, and you can, you know, that'll kind of give a little bit more of a, you know, kind of pushes it in. But I mean, that's not really that important. We don't really need to do that too much. But I just wanted to show you different ways of like kind of getting that space back. So let's clear this mask. So we'll go up here, we'll go back to mask, we'll go up here, and we'll just clear it. And this is what we have. So I kind of like that. So let's just smooth this out because right now it looks very artificial. So let's just smooth it. And I don't even mind smoothing it like a lot. I'm okay with that. That was a lot. All right, so now what we can do is let's add some eyes. So an easy way to add eyes is just to add another sphere. Let's use our gizmo again. So we'll move this one out and up. We'll shrink it down and let's just mirror it. So now we have our two eyes here. We can push them back into the head. And maybe we'll take this blue and kind of flatten them a little bit. But when you flatten them, then you have to sort of turn them so they look a little, so they look more natural. So you'll see me just kind of twist and turn with these little things, just so they're sort of like sitting in a more natural position. I think that looks pretty good. All right, so let's move them a little further apart maybe. Sometimes you can stretch them and that'll make them look good too. I kind of like that. So now we have two eyes there. Perfect. And another thing I like to do, since we have these nice, beautiful eyes here, we can just, so we're in this mirror. Let's go ahead and just validate this. So we'll take the sphere and we'll take the mirror, we'll validate, yes, join children, and then we just have some eyes. So we'll just call it eyes. I know I do that quick, but it's just the 3 dots and rename. So I always do that really quickly. It's hard for me to, by the time I think about it, it's already done, but I'll always do that when I rename. And it's good to keep track of everything too. All right, so we have that. And remember that you can always like sort of edit this. Like if you feel like you want a little more in there, you can like, let's say use clay and make sure you have symmetry on. So you can use clay and then you can sort of just like actually sculpt, which I think is really fun. But then usually whatever you do, like smooth it out afterwards. And see how this is sort of messy? So what I might do here is just like remesh again. So I'll take this and just kind of remesh the head. And then I'll just kind of smooth this out. And usually that helps a bit. That's how I keep things nice and clean and nice and smooth. I remesh. I'm a serial remesher. Okay, so I think this looks pretty good. So what kind of nose or mouth do we want? We could do, I don't know actually. I don't know what kind of nose or mouth I want. Let's do this. You can do so much with spheres that is pretty crazy sometimes. So we added a new sphere. We use our gizmo. Let's bring it up and out. We'll use this orange ring to shrink it. Okay, so what are we going to do with this thing? So let's mirror it. Open it up like this. Now let's move the whole thing back and up. Make it a little bit smaller. Let's move them closer together. Kind of like this. Let's move them up a little bit. Okay, so now we have something like that. And okay, so these are our little, let's call this snout. So let's go ahead and validate both of these, join children. So this will be snout. So let's add another sphere, about just as small. We don't need it mirrored, so make sure you check, and it doesn't need to be mirrored, it should be orange. And we'll kind of insert that right here. Maybe we'll make it a little wider. Okay, so let's just validate that, and let's take drag. Let's make it, put the radius up a little bit. We'll do symmetry, and let's just kind of drag this up a little bit. There we go. And maybe we want to drag it out a little bit. Maybe we want to puff that out a little bit. I think that looks nice. So let's tap on these, and you notice when you tap on, that's how you can use the different meshes. I don't know if I mentioned that. And also another thing that I should have mentioned earlier is you want to make sure that you're in orthographic. I think you're in orthographic to start with anyway, but it's always good to check. Make sure you're in camera orthographic. So let's tap on these little spheres. We're still using drag, and we actually don't need. Do we need symmetry? We do need symmetry. So tap the symmetry button, and let's kind of bring these sort of together a little bit. So I just want to bring the top parts sort of together, kind of like that. Okay, I kind of like it. We'll bring that down a little bit. So we just kind of want a shape like that. And let's merge it. Let's merge it to the head. So we have the head, and then we have the snout, which is that. And let's voxel remesh. So we have voxel. Let's remesh that at 200. So now that's smoothed into place. So now we can go to our smooth tool, symmetry, and we can kind of smooth this. And now we have that little shape. It was that easy. Now let's change this to head. Since it changed to snout. So now we have our head. We're looking good. If you want to give them a little nose, you can add a cylinder, which is my favorite thing to use for noses. So we're using our gizmo. We'll bring it up and out, and we want to put it down forward. So you can do this, but what I like to do, this little hack, go to snap. It should be 90 degrees, and then you can just snap it, and it's perfectly 90 degrees. Press snap again, and then you could, then it's free again. So let's make it small. We'll shrink it up. Maybe we'll even do that. And then we'll just bring it on in. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Bring it down a little bit. Now he has a little nose. Let's validate it. We can take smooth and symmetry, and you can kind of smooth it. Make it even more round. And if you want, you can even take drag. If you have symmetry on, and then you can kind of give it a little more shape. Let's make this smaller. You can give it a little more shape. Like that, you can make it really cute. I feel like it needs to be tilted up a little bit. Maybe a little bit higher. Yeah, there we go. That's kind of cute. All right, so let's make some little legs. This has gone on this is way longer than I thought it was going to be. So this is the nose, so let's just rename it nose. So we have a little nose there, like so. And then we can add, and let's add another sphere. Let's make some little legs. So we have our gizmo, we'll bring it down, shrink it a little bit, mirror, and then we can move it out and then move it up. Shrink. Let's stretch it with this little green orb. Maybe we'll stretch it a little bit this way. And I like to kind of turn the legs in. I like to bring them in a little closer. I like little pudgy legs. Like that. Let's stretch them a little bit more this way. And I want to change the shape of this, so I'm just going to take move. I tapped on the little body, and maybe we want like a little bit more of a shape, so maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll give him a little bit more of a belly here. Let's look on the side. Maybe we'll bring this in a little bit. Maybe we'll bring this out. You know, so you can kind of just shape the character as you like. Or maybe the back is like, no, that's just weird, super weird. I think I like this a little bit better. Okay, so now let's add some little arms. So here we have the mirror. I'm gonna go ahead and validate this and let's name this legs. So let's add another sphere. Same thing, gizmo. We'll move this one out. We'll mirror it. Like this, maybe we'll stretch it. Bring it down, and let's just kind of tilt it into the body. That's kind of how I do most of my little characters. Just shapes, really. So we can validate, and then we can use move to sort of stretch these out and kind of make them the shape that we want. And I just want really simple. Maybe a little bend in them by pushing out like that. It's very simple. Maybe we'll kind of give it a little shape that way. Not bad. All right. Let's give them a little platform. Oh, and let me save this. Save. Let's put noob. Should save more than I save, for sure. So I think that looks pretty good. We can give them let's give them a little platform. So we have all this here. Let's name this arms. So we highlight them both, validate, join children, and then tap here, and we'll name this arms. Okay. And now let's add a little cylinder. We can use these little green things to just kind of bring it down. Let's go to our gizmo and bring that down. Something like this. You can validate. And you can bring it down, you know, as much as you want. And now that you have the ground, sometimes it's nice to like take the move tool and just kind of work on, let's say, the legs. Sometimes it's nice to just kind of fix them and just make them like exactly how you want them to look. Like, I think that looks a little bit better. So I'll tap front, and I want to trim the bottom part, because if this was gone, see how it has that round part? And I don't really like that. So I'm going to tap front, trim, and then rectangle. So when you do rectangle, you can just make a rectangle. I don't want to go right up to it. I want to go right beneath. Actually, let me go a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. So I don't want to go right up to the edge. I want to go right underneath where the layer is. And remember, I have the legs selected. Oops, I thought I did. Now I have the legs selected. Right underneath, trim. So now the legs are trimmed. You can still see a little bit. I got a little close, but that's all right. We can smooth that out if we want. All right, this looks pretty good. Yeah, I think he looks pretty cute. So let's take clay. Make sure it's off of sub. And we'll make sure that we're on the head. And let's just go around the top part like this. Go around the top part a little bit, and then let's smooth that out. Okay, like so. And also, see how this is? I don't really like that. So let's take flatten, symmetry. We're still on the head. And let's just flatten that out. You can make it a little bit bigger. And then we can just flatten. So we just flatten right down. I want it to be more of a shape like that. It's pretty good. That nice space in between the eye sockets. Smooth everything. Looks pretty good. And let's say we want like a little divot. Let's take crease, a divot. We'll take crease, and let's say we want to just make like a section above where the little snout is. You can do something like that. Make it a little deeper. And then we can take smooth and we can just kind of smooth it out. And that'll kind of give it a little more shape. Okay, I like that. And also you notice the eyes kind of stick out weirdly now. So you might just have to go in and adjust them, maybe push them back a little bit. And that looks good. All right, so let's take the eyes, let's clone them. Actually, you know what? Let's not clone them. Let's do this. Let's add another sphere. Let's make some pupils. So we'll shrink, mirror. We'll use the arrow to bring them out. Kind of the same way we did the eyes. We'll shrink it down a little bit. We'll flatten, so we'll flatten them. Maybe shrink them a little bit. And now we can use these as pupils. You just need to position them in the right spot. So now you just bring these back, kind of into the eye. Then you have to just turn them. You just kind of have to find like a nice flat surface. Which can be a little tricky, but it's worth it to just find a nice balance. So maybe something like this. And if it gets a little difficult, you can maybe open it up a little bit, stretch it out a little bit more, and then it might be a little bit easier. So maybe something like this. They should look a little bit more round. So maybe I should turn this. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm just going to go in and make sure that it's I want it to be a little bit more flat against the eye. Now I'm going to flatten them since I feel like it looks good. Oh. Pull it out a little bit. That looks pretty good. And also, if I want to, I can just, I can take smooth and I can go to the eye behind it. I can kind of smooth it. That's kind of a little, like a bit of a cheat. Kind of just smooth it out, and then it'll sort of, you'll be able to see the pupils a little bit better. There you go. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so now we'll do a really quick little lighting. Since this is mostly sculpting, but I do want to show you, what did I validate? Is this the pupils? Yeah, so let's take the sphere and the mirror, validate, join children, and these will be the pupils. Okay, so let's do a quick save. So there we go, cute little character, not very difficult to do, just basic shapes. So let's go here to the shading window, or this window. We'll change it from Metcalf to Lit PBR. We'll go here and change it from orthographic to perspective. So now you can see the character a little bit more of a natural perspective. So that looks good. And the last thing I want to do is, well, not last, but let's make sure we kind of put it in the middle. Go back here and hit view. Let's just rename it by touching this pencil and call it 1. Okay. So now we just have a view. So if we want to do something like this, you can always go here and you can tap on it and it goes back to that view. Okay, so I like to change this from this like shiny white to like a matte white. So we go here, boop, go to white, and put the roughness at like maybe 6 or so. Paint. But actually, I forgot to highlight everything. You don't need to highlight the cameras. And now I'll do the same thing. Go to the color, roughness, and then just hit paint all. Just feels better to me. So now let's light it. So we'll go here. See, there's no lights. These are the lights. This is the environment. And this is my circle environment. So you might have something a little bit different. But if you want mine, mine's in the description. So let's turn the environment off, whatever it is, and then add a light. So now you've added your first light. This is a sunlight. These are the options. But we don't have to do too much right now. Let's just move it off to the side and move it up. It doesn't matter where this light is. All that matters is how you rotate it, like for example. But we don't really need to. We're just going to leave it there. I like to put it here because this is generally where it's coming from. So when I need to access this light, it's kind of in the position that it seems like it should be. So I'll just put it like up here. So let's raise the intensity to like 1.5 or so. And that's pretty good. Let's go in here and change the softness, change the shadow to soft. I like a nice soft shadow. So that's our first light. So you go here. Here's our light. We have our first one. Let's rename it Key. So let's add a second light to fill in this darkness. So we'll add a light. This is another sunlight by default. We'll bring it over here. And then we'll just turn it so it's sort of facing this side of him. Like so. But we want to lower it down, so we'll just lower this intensity. Because we don't want this to be black, we just want it to be sort of a darker gray. So that's perfect. Let's go here. Let's name this light Fill. It's a fill light. So let's add another one. We're going to call this an edge light or a rim light. So we'll change it to spotlight. So here it is. So I'm going to move it back behind him, sort of to the side. And I'm going to turn it around until it's facing him like this. So move it down, move it back a little bit. Maybe back a little bit more. And there's lots of little options. See this orange little dot? So that's like the cone angle. So that's kind of how wide it is. So we can open it up a little bit, making it a little wider. So that's a pretty good position. Let's press that little thing. So this goes back to our view. And we just want to make a nice bright line along the sides. So you might have to move it over a little bit. You can sort of take your little, take these and sort of move them around. So let's move it. Let me twist it a little bit. Can't really see it. Let's raise the intensity. There we go. When I move it over, I can start to see it more. So that's perfect. Move it up a little bit. Let's bring it a little closer. We can go a little bit further. You got to be careful you don't hit on any of the other things when you're trying to work on the lights. So there we go. So now you see that nice edge. You see that nice edge there. Perfect. Cool. So let's name this light edge. And now I like to add a top-down light. So let's go add. We'll use another spotlight. So we'll go up. And we'll just angle it so it's right down on his little head. I want it a little more straight down. So we'll go up a little bit. Again, you can use this if you want. Kind of make sure it's straight down. Bump it up a little bit. And I like to make this one cool. So you can change the temperature by pressing here. And then you can change the warmth. But if I bring this to blue, then it's like a more cool color. So I like to make it a little more cool. So there you go. So there's pretty much your lights. We can give them some color. So you just tap on whatever mesh you want. Tap here, and then you can kind of give them a color. Let's say we want to make all these. And if you want to color them all at once, you could join or you could link the layers, but I'm not going to go into that. Okay, so now we made them this color. Let's make these nice and white. But let's put the roughness down so that they're glossy. No roughness, that means it's glossy. Let's take the pupils. Let's make them black, maybe, or brown. Make them brown, like so. Maybe we'll make the nose brown too, but we don't want it glossy. We want it rough. Make it a little lighter, maybe. And let's do this. If you want to use this color again, you can tap on here, and then you can tap the eyedropper, get the color, and then you can that picks that color. So now you can paint all. Eyes feel a little bit too big for me, the pupils. So, since this is at a weird place, just go to pivot, reset pivot. And unfortunately, it's not a mirror anymore, so they might act a little bit more funny. A little harder to control. You can hit symmetry and they'll kind of react the same way, but it's a little bit easier when they're still in their mirror, but it's still workable. Oh, I think that looks a little bit better, actually. That looks funny. But I like that a little bit better. All right, so the eyes are quite big, but I don't know how much more I want to get into it. Here's another little trick. So you can take the eyes, you can clone them, And so you can take this color, just tap it and hit paint all. So we're still on the ones that we colored. So hit gizmo, even though you can't see them, you can hit pivot, reset, pivot again. I don't know why it always does that. So you move it out and make it maybe a little bit bigger. So kind of like this. And then let's hit front and let's take trim. Remember our old friend, the rectangle? So let's make a rectangle underneath. Like that. So make sure you have the eyes, and then let's voxel remesh them. So just go here, voxel, let's do it at like 200. That should kind of clean them up a bit. There we go. So now we'll take our gizmo and we'll take this red ring and just move them back. Take the blue arrow and move them up, maybe up a little bit and then back, and rinse and repeat so it doesn't look strange. And that's kind of an interesting way to do, you know, eyelids. I hit symmetry so that I can kind of move them separately. So now you have like little eyelids if you want them. And you can do the same thing for the bottoms too. But anyway, yeah, I mean, just like an easy way to do little characters. And those are just little tricks and how you can just use simple shapes to make like a little character. Yeah, make these fun. Maybe I can try to make them a little bit happier. So I'll use drag. And happy usually comes from the mouth. So if I just drag this in a little bit, I might be able to make him look like he's smiling a little bit more. Take these lids and kind of move them up more. Okay. Yeah, these eyes are huge. Maybe I want to make the eyes smaller. But that's the fun thing about 3D is there's just so much you can do that will drastically change your character. You can even make them smaller or flatter. Anyway, there's so much that you can do. And lastly, you can play around with post-process like that. Post-process will always make things look a little bit better because it's more like a render. And also bring back the environment. So just go here to the shading window, this window. Bring back the environment, but bring it down a little bit. Move it down so it's not so absolutely bright. And this is more of a look at what the final render will look like. But yeah, I'll probably continue to mess with this a little bit, see if I can make it look a little bit better. But that's pretty much the end. I mean, this is just kind of a doodle tutorial. But maybe you learned something. Let me know if you did. I'm going to turn it off post-process because it uses up a lot. It's harder to work with when you have post-process on. That looks a lot better, actually. I want to make the snout a little bit bigger, so I'm just going to use clay. like his little chocolate nose. I don't mind that. Ooh, I kind of like the vertical eyes. And maybe I want to put this this lower to the head. So maybe I'll voxel remesh them together. Maybe I'll voxel remesh it with the body. There's so much that you can do. So maybe I'll do the body, this with that little lower jaw, and maybe the legs too. So we'll voxel remesh 200. So now all of these are connected, which may seem bad, but then you can use crease. And you can make a little more detail. Big can I make these? I don't know. I just like to fart around with it. Let's add a little more underneath. So let's go to the head part and let's add a little more under here. Let's get rid of all of this. Give him a bigger nose even. I don't even know if I like the nose. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to smooth all this. I'm going to get rid of these. I'm going to figure out these eyes. You can use something like inflate. So, I mean, now, yeah, just work on your projects. And I'm just trying to give you ideas now while I just doodle away. You can do things like, let's use clay. Let's kind of make this a little bit more interesting as an eye shape. And this might double as like a point, like a cheek point, actually. That looks kind of weird, right? It does look weird. Let me flatten out the middle of this while I figure out what I want to do with him. He looks like an alien now. Still cute though. I think he still looks cute. I'm going to use clay. And just kind of build up around his little eyes there and then smooth it. You can even take drag or move, and you can sort of wait. Why is move being weird? Oh, I'm on the head. Oh, I think the symmetry might be off. Oh no, it's not. What if I do drag? Can I just drag it? Oh, there we go. Just drag and just kind of drag that out a little bit. Maybe drag this up. We're just getting real. Everyone's so creative. Give the eyes a little bit more of like a cool shape. Give this a flatten. Okay, looks interesting. I don't think we flattened up smoothed out the body here. Smooth that out. We can smooth out the legs too. Forgot about that. Now that he's like one piece, this would actually be kind of a cool print. If I can figure out what I want to do with his mouth. You can do things like pinch. So say I wanted to like make this nice profesh looking crease here. Outward crease. Pinch is great for that. I love it. I love the way that looks. So let's do clay. Might have been a little aggressive, but I like that. Smooth it out. So let's try to make like a mouth out of this. Let's see what we can do. I think that's quite cute, actually. Maybe we want to give him a little chin. I'm not sure, but maybe. Maybe like a little implied little chin. You can soften it a little bit. Maybe even two little like nostrils. This might be too much, but let's try it. Nostrils might be too much. You can do a crease and sub and sort of sharpen it a little bit. Let's see what that looks like. That's too much. Sometimes I just get too crazy. All right, so these eyes, I'm gonna clone them. I'm gonna clone the eyes. I'm just gonna rename it P1. Maybe this will work better. Sometimes I clone them, sometimes I add pivot, reset, pivot. But let's see, let's set the color first so it looks like something. So let's just do random color. Let's do like a green, a lighter green, and we'll do paint all. And we'll just make it smaller. Make it small, we'll separate. Again, it's a little bit more difficult when, let's hit a line. A line might help us because a line will keep this arrow like straight. It'll always keep it like straight up and down and, you know, that kind of thing. If you don't have a line on, then it moves according to the shape. It's kind of cute. Maybe a little tilt. I think that looks kind of cool. And again, maybe I'll just kind of smooth out the eyes. Try to make this a little more circular. Actually, maybe I'll just get rid of it altogether. I buy that. I buy that. I also want to do some little eye things here. So let's do that. Let's use, I like to use cylinders. So we use a cylinder, gizmo, bring it out. We'll do our little snap thing, shrink it, flatten it up a little bit, shrink it again. Let's mirror it, and then we'll just move them to their respective places, which is about here. Take it off snap, and now we'll just, I'm going to take it off a line as well. So we'll make them smaller, generally in position, validate, and then we just need to smooth them up. I'm going to do symmetry to smooth them. Okay. Oop. And then I like to just take drag. We don't need symmetry anymore. And then I like to, wait, which way do I want it? I think I want it, I think I want it like this. So that looks pretty good, and I'll just kind of use this to sort of flatten them into the, maybe I'll use move to kind of flatten them into the skin a little bit better. Oh, they're kind of big. Let's use drag again to kind of push and pull, just to sort of like, you know, get whatever shape you want. Pull this out. And I'll take smooth and just kind of smooth them so they look a little bit better. Also makes them a little smaller too. They were quite sizey. Now that they're in too far, you can either take drag and you can kind of pull them up a little bit. I was going to say, or you can use the gizmo and just sort of, but I think that's good. I think that works. I'm going to take the color of this. I'll go back into here, and maybe I want them to be just a little bit lighter than that color. Like so. And now, since we're here, let's see if we can get him a little happier. If you ever do use a tool and it paints a different color, you have to turn off this. So just go to the color and turn that off. Give him a little bit more of a smile. Maybe we'll flatten this little nose out a little bit. Smooth it out. Maybe we'll give him two little teefies. What is this? What is this? Oh, these are the eye dots. So let's validate these and call these eye dots. Nice. And lastly, let's give him two little teefies. So we'll just add another sphere. Same thing as usual. Move it up, move it out. Shrink, shrink. Smush together like that. Shrink. And then we'll just use the mirror. We can sort of place them where we think they look good. This might be a little tricky. A little trickier than I thought. Mm. Eh. Maybe if they're a little bit more nubby, maybe that works a little better. Ooh, I like it. I think it looks pretty cute. Yeah, I like it. So let's just, we'll do this. I like it. Maybe I want them to be a different color. I don't know what color I want them. It's kind of cute. It's kind of mint green. Oh, let's turn off depth of field. Everything else is good. We don't need depth of field. We can turn down ambient occlusion a little bit, so it's not so dark in the shadows. Let's turn the whole thing down a little bit. And yeah, I think it's an interesting, cute little character. I hope you enjoyed it. I will leave it to you there. Continue to play, continue to have fun. That's the best and easiest way to learn. I'll leave you with this. If we want to make this glow, you take the eye dots, you clone them, you rename, you don't have to do this, but you rename it to eye.add. And the reason why I call it add is you change the add one, you go up here, you change it to additive, and then you do always unlit. And you can change the opacity, but you don't want to put it up too high. But if you want to adjust the colors a little bit, maybe it's like you don't really see, you want it to be more green, just go to the color and just make it like a deeper green. And just do paint all, so at least it's like a little more green. And you can go here and you can change the whole thing to like subsurface. I usually bring the depth down a little bit. But subsurface also makes things look really cool. I'll do it on the teeth as well. The teeth, subsurface. You can even do it on the eyes. You can make those subsurface. Even these. Just kind of gives it a little bit, it makes everything look a little bit more realistic to me. So you can do that kind of thing. Hit it with a quick save. If you want to export, you go here, you go all the way down. Make sure you save first. You export here. 4K screen. But before you do that, make sure you go to post-process and turn the render resolution all the way up. You can render out. This is the best quality, it's better than this. So just go there, here, save, and then you can export. Yeah. I guess I have to like color this first. let's go ahead and export it. So I might doctor it up, but that's that. Keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video. I think I might start uploading stuff on Cults 3D. I was just looking it up, and I think I might have to do it. I think it's time, folks. I think it's time. I gotta get in on some of this money to be made. People that love to print, 3D print cool stuff, and I love to make cool stuff, and I would just love the ability to continue to make cool stuff, and that requires an income. Because unfortunately, I am an adult with adult bills, which means, you know what, I should have just flattened this thing. I want to do so I need to finish up another tutorial, but the reason why I haven't finished it up is because I've been for about 24 hours, I've been, what is it called? I've been rendering on my computer, and it's just like a little bit louder than I would like. So I'm like, let me just do something else. So instead of having that tutorial be quiet and then loud, I figured I would just do a whole new one, so then I could try to, which is this one. So then I can try to do the, you know, what you call it when you try to change the audio. I can try to do the audio so that it is equal and decent throughout. You know what? These need to be a little bit more. They just need to be a little bit more like, yeah, like a little bit more like this. That's what I want. Maybe I even want to crease this. But now I have to move all of these. Let's take all of these. They look good. Let's join them. Let's go ahead and validate this. We'll join the children. I think I want to use white. We'll keep it nice and rough, paint all. Make sure we do subsurface so they're nice and soft looking. Pivot, reset, pivot. Let's do symmetry so I can move them individually. I think I like that. Am I moving this the right way? And if this really gets annoying, something else that you can do to make it easier, you just go to this. So let's, if I name it ear fluffs. So to make this easier, you can take your trim. So we'll go to the front, and then you can trim 1/2. So then you can go to your gizmo, pivot, reset, pivot so that it resets just on one. So this is a lot easier to kind of handle and edit. So then you put it exactly where you want it. So let's say we like that. Will the line help me? No. Kind of want it to bend back a little bit. Okay. There we go. So once you get it where you like it, then you can just go ahead, make sure you're on ear fluffs, add mirror, and that adds the mirror. So that's just like what we had before. So now I'll validate it, and I just have to rename it ear fluffs. Okay, nice, cute. I feel like he's not, I guess he's flush up against the floor. Maybe I'll just bring this up a little bit. And don't forget, you can always change the color of this if you want. Black. But we'll leave it that color for now. I like it. Ooh, one last thing. Almost forgot. Tube tool. Give him some eyebrow or eyelashes. So we'll start here. Oh, we want to go path, snap. We want path and snap. Lift the pencil up, back down, slide, lift the pencil up, back down, slide, lift the pencil up, and so on and so forth. So you kind of make a nice little arch. Hit the green. And it's not terrible, but of course, let's hit radius. We'll make this nice and small. And we'll make this side big for now, but we'll probably change it. Let's hit spline too. Spline makes it nice and curvy. So now we want to take it off of snap because we want to bring this, let's make it a little more thin. We want to bring this into the crevice here so that it looks nice and natural. So we bring it into the crevice like that. That looks great. And now what I want to do is I actually want to make this side smaller as well, so I have to hit radius again. And I have to do it manually. So we'll make this small, this not as small, and this not as small. And we can make this actually a little bit bigger, this a little bit pudgier, you know, that kind of thing. Maybe I'll make that a little smaller, this a little bit smaller. I just want it to look as natural as possible. So yeah, something like that I think is good. Now I have to move this into the crevice as well. Make it a little bit smaller and just move it into the mesh so that it looks like a kind of just like a natural fall off. Okay, once you like it, you can mirror it, validate it. And I usually make this black, but maybe we'll just go with like a darker green. And we'll full roughness. Yeah, maybe we'll just go with a lighter greenish color. Looks good. I'm officially happy with it. And this is the one I will export. Great. Oops. So like I said, I'll save and I'll export. What's up guys, Drug Free Dave here, and welcome to Advanced 3D Character Design with Nomad Sculpt. This is a little bit more of a challenge. By now you've taken some of my classes, you've been working with Nomad Sculpt for a while, so it's time to up the ante. It's time to do a sculpt that's a little more challenging, but also it's going to be way more rewarding. So of course, you know the drill. What you're seeing right now is the class. So everything you see, you will learn. And I've also included some extras in this class. We have some 3D sculpts that I've made, some 3D accessories that you can plug in. And I'm really excited to teach at more of a faster pace, more along the lines of how I would normally sculpt, and probably how you sculpt when you're doing your projects. And I think that you'll be able to create some amazing designs once you work through this class. And you just kind of pick up some things that I do when I really go full out and I really pull out all the stops. All right, I hope you guys are excited to start this project. I'm excited to teach. Let's jump to the next video class project. So firstly, I want to apologize for the focus breathing. It's really annoying, and you'll see it around the frames of the video. The focus jumps and it like literally is so annoying. But I just wanted to mention that because it won't happen again, because now I'm shooting manual focus. It's literally so loud. It's like the cat's in the litter box. People are doing like river dance upstairs. Like I can't. It's so difficult. It's so difficult. I don't know what to do. I'm trapped. To have a studio. To be able to record. To be able to simply just record when I'm ready to record. I can't even imagine it. I can't even imagine how sweet that would be. And if I ever get that, I don't know. It doesn't stop.